Well, hello there folks, and welcome to TK Power Sports. Today, we're taking a look at this, the Yamaha Wolverine X2 1000. We're out here on a gorgeous day. We're gonna ride some trails, hit some mud and water, and I'm gonna tell you exactly how good and how fun this machine is. Make sure you stay tuned. All right, folks, time to ride. First of all, where are we? Well, we are just outside of Angus, Ontario at the Brentwood Tract. And shout out to the Ontario Federation of ATV Clubs for providing us this day pass. This is a great cross-section of trails, sandy, a lot of water, a lot of mud, some great hills. You're gonna see all that right now. But first things first, we have to talk about the power. So let's start her up. Got it in high. Two-wheel drive, my foot's going to the floor. Let's feel this 1000. And yes, that power feels incredible. Adding the 1000 cc's to this unit, which of course is slightly smaller and lighter than the larger R-Max, it just hits so hard off the line. I don't think anyone will ever complain about the power here. And you know what? It's not just in the low ranges too. Once you're moving at speed, you can still put your foot into it and access some really great kind of mid-range acceleration from this power plant. And there is the engine. It's a 999cc parallel twin, making somewhere just north of 100 horsepower. And this thing revs up to a red line at 8,500 RPM. Now, when you lift the bed like this, you get good access to your engine to do some work on it. Plus, what I really like, and you can see it, just how far forward this engine is, truly making this a mid-engined unit. So power delivery, the way it shifts sort of into high and into low is super smooth. I also like low range. I feel like it's geared really nicely, a nice blend of that torque, still getting you some decent speeds. I will give you the one big complaint though, right off the top about the engine. It's noisy. I mean, listen. We've been riding out here for, I don't know, the better part of 3-4 hours now. And I can tell you that my ears are already feeling it. That's sort of the marker for me. I just pay attention to, are my ears feeling fatigued? Are they feeling tired? And the answer today is yes. So Yamaha did such a good job with the engine note and the tuning on the 850 that also goes here in the Wolverine. I remember riding that thing for the first time and being incredibly impressed with how quiet it was. Well, this 1000 is the exact opposite. It's just really quite a loud motor, and the fact that it's kind of mid-engine, it's right here on the right side of me, just means that you're listening to it rev and drone all day long. Now let's talk traction and suspension, but first, let me show you what's on this thing. The special edition comes with 28-inch Maxxis bighorns, and this is a square setup, which means that it is the exact same size tire all the way around. And then behind the tires, a set of shocks from Sachs ZF. Now in the front here, we're getting just over 13 inches of suspension travel. In the back, 15.5 inches of suspension travel. And these things have quite a few different clicker positions, plus they have slow speed, high speed compression adjustments, and preload adjustments, so you can really set these shocks how you want them. We had great conditions today to test these Maxxis bighorns too, because there was loads of standing water here on these trails, and most of them had these really slick, muddy bottoms to them. And so far, I didn't feel any issues. The bighorns creeped right through all of the mud that we could find. There was maybe once or twice where I felt like I had to put my foot into it a little deeper and get them spinning and kind of churning through the mud. But for the most part, they felt like they were hooked up exactly what I wanted them to be. And then sort of on the flip side of that is the fact that with this 1000 cc's power plant in two-wheel drive, I could really steer with the throttle. Coming around the corner on a lot of these sandy washes. Sorry, I just wanted to get up that hill. I don't like talking when I have to rev up too much. But yes, coming around these sandy corners, you could really steer it with your throttle. Put your foot into it, get that back end to step out, and just swing it around the corner. But you know what? It always felt like it was in control as well. And that's the other nice thing about the power. Easy to modulate. I found with my right foot, if I wanted to add just a little bit more, crank up that rotation, I could do that too. So yes, handling-wise, I really like the way it feels from the tire perspective, and same with the suspension. So the travel numbers here are actually just a little bit less than the larger R-Max. Now to me, it feels like a bigger gap between this machine and the R-Max if you're just looking at the numbers. And I do think one of the other things that really comes into play is the wheelbase. This thing has such a short wheelbase. You can see me going through some whoops here. Yeah, through the whoops. This is not a great machine just because you're bucking back and forth constantly. You don't have the length to really try and smooth out those whoops. And that's where stepping up to the R-Max, you're gonna get more of that sort of ultimate capability and performance in situations like big whoops. That being said though, flying through those whoops, I hit a bit of a jump here too and sort of flew off the other end of it. I never really felt like the machine bottomed out. Now the preload is cranked up quite a bit, so I think those springs at the end are just so stiff, they never allowed me to hit a hard bottom, but that is saying something. I was riding quite hard today, and I don't really feel like I found the absolute limits of that suspension. So that combination of sort of allowing me to slide around, but then still have control, plus never hitting a hard bottom after coming through whoops and off jumps, yeah, so far the suspension and the tires have worked perfectly. Back to the size for just a second, I definitely felt that out here today on these trails. These were initially cut for 50-inch ATVs, and then of course side-by-side started coming on them, so they made them just a little wider, but in a lot of spots they're still quite skinny. So that's another area where this machine sort of stands out from that larger R-Max, is you're just getting the proportions you want to fit in tight trails. And then the turning radius is pretty good. Now the reason I say pretty good is because the rear end here is always locked. This is another sort of Yamaha thing. They like to do this on the majority of their machines, if not all of them. They don't give you a choice for a rear locker. Now the upside to there is just simplicity. There's no mechanical system that has to lock up your rear end. It's just always ready to go. The downside is turning radius. You hook it into a tight turn at slow speeds, you end up ripping up the ground underneath you, and you just feel that the machine doesn't want to make that turn. So I don't think it's necessarily a deal breaker, but it is something to keep in mind. And then if you do buy this machine to drive it around in your backyard, or even say around your farm, your woodlot, something like that, you do have to be aware that you're gonna tear up the ground beneath you if you make any hard turns. So I've been driving around my backyard just to do some jobs, and I take every turn absolutely as wide as I can, and with that method, you don't tear up the ground too bad. But yes, always locked rear end is something to be aware of. And then of course over here on my left, I have two-wheel drive, four-wheel drive, and diff lock. That is for the front diff. So if you do hit something that is kind of extreme, you can lock up your front end too. Now I should speak on interior ergonomics now too. I stand at 6'2", 300 pounds. I fit in here just fine. Tons of headroom, even with the helmet. My one usual complaint with Yamahas is this plastic piece over here by my left shoulder. The whole idea there is to kind of keep your arms inside the machine in a bit of a tight steering position. It does its job, it does work. I just do find it uncomfortable. I do kind of run into that piece pretty constantly, so that's something you need to be aware of. But outside of that, again, I think I fit great in here. And I do like one little attention to detail. Yamaha added these padded sections down here by my legs, one on the inside and one on the door. So the spots where my knees and my legs are actually contacting the machine, it's not hard plastic, it's a bit of a cushion. So that's a nice little nod to comfort here in the Wolverine X2. I also think the machine's pretty good when it comes to storage, a big glove box, a little storage over here in the center console, and then a couple cubbies down here by my right knee. It's more than enough for you to pack all your stuff away for an adventure, or again, if you are working with this unit, to carry odds and ends or whatever else you need to bring with you. So the unit we're in today is the XTR, otherwise known as the Special Edition here in Canada, and you do get quite a few upgrades with the package. When you step up to the XTR package, or as it's known here in Canada, the Special Edition, you're getting a number of features. First of all, the graphics package down the side to let you know that yes, this is the special model. And then you're getting a Warren 4,500-pound winch, a Sunrider top up there, plus a rear view mirror and interior blue lighting. Finally, these plastic over fenders over here just to keep everything a little cleaner, plus those great looking gold wheels. So in terms of the fun factor out here on the trail, all the boxes are checked here. This thing is quite fun. I should also mention the power steering. It is speed sensitive, so the faster you get, the lighter it gets, and then at slow speeds, it remains pretty heavy. I think Yamaha usually does a really nice job dialing in the power steering. To me, and this is a personal preference, I would like it a little bit heavier, but still, I don't think there's no life in the wheel. It's not like it's numb or anything like that. You're still getting plenty of feedback to tell you what the machine is doing underneath you and exactly where it is. So personally, I would love to see choices here where I could pick my, my steering wheel feedback level, but outside of that, still, I think Yamaha blends the power steering here quite nicely. So yeah, all the fun factors, all the boxes are checked. It's quite fun out here on the trail. It does everything you want, and you will not be asking for more power. This 1000 is great. But the other, honestly, I think the biggest purchase decision or purchase characteristic you're going to look at is how hard it can work. And it actually tows and hauls the exact same numbers as the larger R-Max. Let's take a closer look at this bed because this is a very important part of this machine. First of all, very much a classic tailgate. I do like, though, that it latches closed nice and tight. Nothing is back here rattling around like can happen with some other brands. Now, another key component to this machine is the fact that the bed still dumps. So if you do want to haul anything, rocks, hay, sand, it's nice to have a bed that can still dump. Now, the numbers here, the bed capacity is 600 pounds, which is pretty decent. There are D-rings in all the corners so you can tie things down, plus slots for different bed dividers that you can make yourself. And then finally, you are getting a full-size 2-inch hitch receiver down there, tow rating here, 2,000 pounds. So let me try to sum it up and answer the final question. Who's the customer for this machine? Well, again, in this rec utility segment, it's someone who wants to come out here on trail rides, have a ton of fun, but then maybe still has some work they want to get done. So you go for one of these machines. In that regard, I think the Wolverine X2 1000 will serve you well. And then again, just always talking about within the Yamaha lineup, I think that if you want the absolute ultimate performance on the trail, you're going to step up to the R-Max. But if you can live without it, you're going to save yourself about $6,000, and you're going to get a machine that works just as hard and delivers the identical power. So with all those things in mind, I think this is the value play. This is the one when you're at the dealership and you go, you know what, the R-Max looks like a little bit too much for me. I'll stick with the X2 1000. It looks like more than enough, and I'll save that money. That's what Yamaha was thinking here, trying to pack a lot of value into this machine to offer customers more choices. Well, folks, we have come to the end of this one. Now, outside of the fact that I wish this machine wasn't so noisy, it basically does everything else it promises. If you just want to come out here on the trail and have a blast, you can absolutely do that. Or if you want to throw a 2,000-pound trailer behind you, you're not going to be worried because the power is here and the suspension to handle hard work. So, of course, now I want to hear from you. Tell me about everything you saw in this video. Did you like the trails? Did you like the testing? And what do you think about this machine? I want to hear about it down there in the comments. Oh yeah, and then when you're down there, don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, hit join to become a member of TK Power Sports, and then come right back here to the channel to see what we're testing next. And if you'll excuse me, it is a gorgeous day out here, and I got to keep riding. See ya.